Greetings and salutations. I got the whole fam Danley with me today. I found a couple of talc mines over west of Tacoma, and one of them is called Ibex Spring, and it was a talc mine that was productive from roughly 1940 all the way into the late 50s. So we'll go there first, and if we have time, we'll cruise on down to Saratoga Spring, which is kind of an oasis out in the middle of the desert. So grab yourself an adult beverage and enjoy today's off-road adventure. Ready to go?
Let's go.
Okay, let's go. That's Highway 127. Baker that way, Tacoma that way. And off in the distance you see Dumont Dunes. Probably 4 or 5 miles, maybe a little bit further past Tacoma, is a turnout. It's an unmarked road. You see this antenna here if you wanted to come out here. You see this array here, I don't know what that is, cell tower or something. But this is called Ibex Road. It's in Google Maps if you want to look it up. We're headed down this unmaintained road to Ibex Springs. Desert watering holes are difficult places to interpret, and Ibex Springs is no exception. Although we know from the data that certain activities took place at Ibex Springs during certain periods of time, constant use of the watering hole by prospectors, travelers, and miners for almost 100 years has slowly erased all but the most recent signs of the past. Nevertheless, certain of the remaining structures can be identified and dated. The first specific references to Ibex Springs were in connection to the old Ibex mine of the 1880s. Unfortunately, both the mine and the spring moved around constantly in the vague geographic descriptions given in early accounts, making it impossible to pinpoint any specific activities. Ibex Springs, however, was undoubtedly the water source for the old Ibex mine and mill. During the bullfrog boom years of the early 20th century, references become more specific. The locators of the Lost Bethune mine, which was in the immediate vicinity of the springs, described the area as having old arrowheads and stone cooking pots laying around, and told of the remains of old buildings that no modern Indian could or no Mormon would build. Of these buildings, a 3-sided stone structure was converted to a bunkhouse by the miners. Subsequent descriptions of the locale in 1907 described it as a fine camp of bunkhouses, boarding houses, etc. Whether these buildings were constructed of stone, wood, or canvas is unknown. With the demise of the Bullfrog era mines, the small camp at Ibex Springs was deserted and became fair play for the needs of wandering prospectors and travelers. Although we cannot be certain, it's probably safe to surmise that little remained of the camp by the time the Ibex talc mines opened in the mid-30s. Throughout the active operations of the Morehouse, the Monarch, and the Pleasanton from the 1930s to the 1950s, and the intermittent mining of the 60s, Ibex Springs was exploited as a water source for mining and living needs, and a fairly substantial camp appeared. Since the talc mines have remained in private hands until recent years, the remains of this camp have escaped large-scale destruction and dominate the present scene. The talc mining camp at its height consisted of a dozen wooden buildings, including a bathhouse with plumbing, several sheds and storehouses, and several living quarters. Most of the buildings were constructed of boards and plasterboard and had electric lights and propane appliances. The spring was improved by the talc miners by means of a concrete spring house and collection tank from which water was pumped or flowed to the shacks. The area is spread with numerous artifacts of recent vintage, such as car hoods, Pepsodent toothbrushes, and a plastic Zenith radio casing. Although the buildings themselves remain in fairly good state of repair, the proliferation of junk throughout the site makes it an eyesore. Interspersed among the modern ruins are signs of a more removed past, such as remnants of stone walls, dugouts, and storage caves. Most of these are located in the northern part of the complex, nestled against the slope of the hills. The most important are 2 stone dugout shelter ruins consisting of 3 to 4 foot high walls constructed of unmortared rock. Bottles in a small dump near the dugouts date the ruins to the Bullfrog era boom, and the dugout shelters were undoubtedly used as temporary shelters before the erection of the Fine Camp of the Lost Bethune Mining Company. No other surviving structures can be positively dated from the Bullfrog era. Due to the great predominance of the scene by the modern Talc mining camp, there is very little historic integrity left at Ibex Springs. The modern camp is certainly not of historical significance. The early 20th century stone ruins have more interest, but due to the great proliferation of such types of ruins throughout the monument, and the fact that more modern structures negate the integrity of these remains, preservation efforts are not warranted on this site. Since the older stone ruins are small, difficult to locate, and are tucked away out of sight of the rest of the camp, a policy of benign neglect should lead to no more than natural deterioration of the site. Link to this document is in the description. What's left of a cabin? I have no idea what that is. Got a two-holer here. Looks like there used to be a cabin down there. It's got vandalized. But we got water piping here that runs down here. You know, they probably had indoor plumbing in terms of water running into the homes, and an outhouse for facilities, and there's all sorts of garbage laying out here. So let's check some of this stuff out. Actually had a modern toilet in it with running water. Men and women. Old Serval absorption refrigerator. Pretty popular way of refrigerating things back in the day. We used LP to operate much like an RV refrigerator. Another absorption fridge. And it looks to me like there may have been a cabin here, but whoever decided to build their cabin here, and that one too is that one's probably gonna suffer the same fate as this one. You know, much like the biblical story about building your house on sand versus building it on a rock foundation. You don't build your cabin in a wash. That's just dumb. With the floodwaters here, fortunately, for the time being, went around. You can see the plumbing here for the kitchen sink. Shower over yonder, and the sidewalls are only, 5.5 foot tall sidewalls. This room is 1, 2, 3, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 by 10. Kitchen, a toilet, a shower, and a place to lay your weary head after working the talc mines for a 12-hour shift. And a couple of windows. And look at the view out your kitchen window in the morning. Those views never get old. That was a privy. Pretty cool old gas stove here. That's neat. A couple more old gas ovens. Look at the finish on that. In an effort to preserve the historical site of Ibex Springs, the Mojave River Valley Museum, Barstow, California, has been given permission to adopt this site. The museum is conducting a photographic study of the area and will be responsible for ensuring the site remains undisturbed by forces other than nature. You are invited to visit the area, but please do not disturb the site. Oh, look at that. Oh, what we got here? Some Altoid, an Altoid 10, 9mm round. Some rat shit. What the hell is this? Ooh, this got a little Magnute on it. John Jameson and Son Limited. Ronan, there's someone behind you. May 19th from Pahrump, my hometown. From Hesperia, California. Oceanside, Cali. Hendang, China, for her 20th birthday year. A guy. Seymour Ryan, Pahrump, Kim and Jeff Ronson. That's the last time anybody signed the register, was July 9th. Wow. DZLFREEK. Nine 22 19. Greetings. There. I left my mark. Nice porch. Oh, they even had electricity, man. There's a light switch there. Hibachi! It's a hibachi. That's an old school hibachi there, bro. That's cast iron. Looks like it might have been a bathhouse. There's 2 showers. And this was a flange for a toilet. Looks like my son is standing over the old vault for all the poop.
Ew, what?
Yeah.
Ew, no.
You know what this building was? Mess hall, maybe? Pack rats taking up residence. Awesome. Oh, check this out. This entire structure is roughly 10 feet long, maybe 8 feet wide. There's a little gas stove here, a toilet, a shower, and a place to put a bed. This may have been the superintendent's house. It's considerably larger. This kitchen is bigger than most of the other houses down there. This is 20 feet by maybe 12, 14 feet. This room, and then 12 by 12, and I come out and look at this every morning while you're drinking your coffee. Pretty nice. Oh, would you look at that? A root cellar. Yeah, that's probably what that is, a little root cellar. See how that hole up there and that platform is peeled off the side of the house. I'll bet you $10 to a nickel there's a swamp cooler up there. Superintendent's house had air conditioning. Obviously there's a spring here because there's a freaking huge palm tree here.
dugout.
Likely a miner shack. There's another one right there. Looks like there's maybe one over there too. There's a water tank. Oh, that's a coyote scat. This is probably the best preserved building on this site right now. Oh, I spy with my little eye. Little something there in the backyard. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Looks like bedrooms, and then a central, I don't know, a central room. That big old horsefly, he's coming to get me. I need to go outside. That bastard, my wife said that he's been following us since we left the paved road. Look at that. Yeah. A little pantry. Some more poop. Coyote scat. Well, let's see if we can make our way up to the mine. That's where we just came from. Look at this view, man. And there's the mines.